we'd have 100-minute lessons. So when we came back in September and it was kind of that halfway between lockdown, halfway not, we're in the tiers, we went to 100-minute lessons to sort of minimise movement for students. And we've kept with those with online learning. And the first 50 minutes are teacher-led, where we're, they're going into breakout rooms and they're having discussions, and that's helped a lot. So they don't feel quite as intimidated in talking in front of a whole class of 32. That they'll get involved a little bit more in those breakout rooms, and then I can pop into those breakout rooms and sort of facilitate that a little bit. The other one, then obviously we go on to Hegarty, and I'm finding actually more students are completing the Hegarty work than are engaging in the lesson. I don't know why. I think it's probably something to do with feeling a little bit intimidated about talking in front of the class of everybody. But they'll quite often go on there and do the work and leave comments on questions where they wouldn't necessarily involve themselves in an online lesson. Past that, if they're not doing that, then we're supported quite well by our student achievement leaders heads of year. So they've been really good. Just sort of keeping those lines of communication open, dropping an email, sending a my message, just making sure that they know that you're there and that you're wanting to help them, because I think it's tough for everyone. So
yeah, and I think I'd add to that, Hegarty Maths is one thing that's really good about it is that the data-driven side of it. So during first lockdown, at the end of each week, I'd send each year manager a list, a spreadsheet of their students, and it was just ordered by how much time that student had spent on Hegarty Maths. So they could see that there was a chunk of 10 or 20 that weren't getting a lot done. They could then go and make phone calls home. So that was an easy thing to do. I just used to do it on a Friday morning. I go on the little Create Mark book, click, 5 emails would appear for each one that I wanted, and I could just ping that to the year managers. We've changed a bit now. We've gone to a more department-led and teacher-led kind of intervention. So staff training themselves by, if a student's not been on a couple of times to join the lesson or do a task on Hegarty Maths, they'll reach out to the student by email and then pass it on to the year manager. But it's really easy to get an overview of who's doing stuff, who isn't, and then you can act on that as you want to. I think going before that, I think one thing, before they've done the task, I think one thing our students have really liked about Hegarty Maths is it's a big consistent thing. If we say there's a video to watch that we've made or it's on Hegarty, and we've got a bit where you say you go to Hegarty Maths every lesson, they know that if something's going wrong with whatever things they're trying to do in English or in science with different kind of platforms, maths, we've got Hegarty Maths that is always a good fallback. And I know when I've been in school with the vulnerable students, if they're stuck and really concerned about they don't know how to access some lessons, they know they've got Hegarty Maths there as sort of a fallback where they can do some learning while they're waiting to get a bit of support. So I think the students like the consistency of it. And one of my year 11s, after I rang up to check how he was doing as a well-being call, really liked Hegarty Maths because he said that he could do it in bed. So he'd get up in the morning and he wouldn't actually leave his bed. He'd get his phone and he had a bit of paper by his bed and he'd do his Hegarty Maths in bed. And he said he couldn't really do that with his other subjects. So that was his favourite part of it.
I think I'll add to that. It's the routine. It's pretty standard, the way that students found that. We found that some of our students weren't doing a lot of their other subjects because there was too much information being given to them and there was too much variety. But because it was at the time, it was a pretty standard approach, right? You log on, you watch that video, you do that. They found that a lot more, well, they were more receptive to it. I did notice in the chat, somebody put a question about what about low ability learners. One thing that we found, me and Carl share a low ability year 7, and we've not always been using the Hegarty Maths videos, but we've been having almost like a live lesson as preparation, and then saying, right, well, okay, we've done a live lesson today. Your next lesson is going to be, you need to do that Hegarty Maths task. You've got our live lesson, you've got the Hegarty Maths video there as well. That's then their second lesson of the week. So they will then do it that way. So there are other ways around it.